How's it going, guys? It's Kyle with the How To Guy 123 here, and in today's video I'm going to show you how to dual boot Windows 10 and Windows 11 at the same time. This is a good way to try out Windows 11 if you aren't ready to give up Windows 10 yet, or if you're like me and have already installed Windows 11, but you need to switch back to Windows 10 because some software you need to use just doesn't work well on Windows 11. Before we begin, it's a good idea to make a backup of all your data, just in case something goes wrong. However, if you follow this tutorial correctly, your data should be okay, but it's always good to be on the safe side. One more thing I'd like to mention is that it doesn't matter which version of Windows you currently have installed. For example, I'm already running Windows 11 on my PC, and I will be dual booting Windows 10. However, it is the same steps if you already have Windows 10 installed and you want to dual boot Windows 11. You just need to make sure that your PC is compatible with Windows 11 before installing. So to begin, we're going to need to open Disk Management. On both Windows 10 and Windows 11, you can just right-click on the Start button and choose Disk Management from the list. Once Disk Management is open, you'll need to find your boot drive, the drive that is currently running Windows. If you only have one SSD or hard drive, then there shouldn't be a problem, but if you have multiple drives like I do, you'll need to look for the drive with the C partition. In my case, it's Disk 1. My Disk 1 also has a K partition, which is a partition that I made to keep videos and large files, but we're going to want to ignore this. We want to focus on our C partition. We need to shrink it and take some disk space from it for our Windows dual boot. To do this, right click on the C partition and choose Shrink. Windows will take a second to query the disk for shrinking, and when it's done, it's going to ask you how much disk space do you want to shrink from the partition. This is the amount of space we're going to be giving to our Windows dual boot in megabytes. For this example, I'm going to give Windows 10 100 gigabytes, which is roughly 100,000 megabytes, and I'll enter this in the amount of disk space we want to shrink. Once you've entered the size, click Shrink, and you can now see that our Disk 1 has roughly 100 gigabytes of unallocated space. We can now partition the unallocated space. Right click on the unallocated space and choose New Simple Volume. The New Simple Volume wizard will open. Just click Next, then Next again. You can assign your partition a drive letter, or you can choose to not assign a drive letter if you don't want to be able to access the files of your Windows dual boot from your default Windows OS. I will assign my partition the letter E, then click on Next. Leave the file system as NTFS. I recommend giving the volume a label. I'm going to call mine Windows 10 as that's the OS I'll be installing onto the new partition. Once you've given your volume a label, click Next, then Finish. Once Windows has created the partition or volume, it'll open it in the File Explorer, so just go ahead and close out of it. And you can see in Disk Management I have a new partition on Disk 1 that's labeled Windows 10 and has roughly 100 gigabytes. And that's all we're going to need to do in Disk Management, so we can now go ahead and close out of it. Now we're going to need to create a bootable Windows USB drive with the version of Windows we want to dual boot. I'll leave links in the description below to where you can download Windows installation media tools for both Windows 10 and Windows 11. On the Windows 11 download page, make sure to download the second option where it says Create Windows Installation Media. Don't download the Windows 11 Installation Assistant. However, since I'll be dual booting Windows 10, I'm going to download the Windows 10 Media Creation Tool. The Windows 10 and 11 Media Creation Tool should be very similar, and you'll be able to follow the same steps as me to create a Windows bootable USB. Go ahead and plug in a USB flash drive to your PC, then open up the Media Creation Tool. It's going to take a few seconds to get things ready. Once that is done, accept the license agreement. Then when it asks what do you want to do, choose Create Installation Media, then click Next. Use the recommended options for this PC when selecting a language, architecture, and edition, then click Next. Choose USB drive for the media you want to use, then select your USB flash drive. In this case, my USB flash drive is the H drive. Then click Next and the Media Creation Tool will download Windows and create your bootable USB. This process usually takes a few minutes. Once the Media Creation Tool has finished creating your Windows bootable USB, you can now close out of it. Now go ahead and restart your computer. You'll now need to boot into your USB. So before your PC boots into Windows, press your PC's keyboard key to bring up the boot menu. In my case, the key is F11, but this can vary from computer to computer. Once in the boot menu, select your USB flash drive using the arrow keys, then press enter. Your PC will now boot into the Windows installer. Choose the language you want to install, then click Next. Then click Install Now. Enter a product key if you have one, otherwise choose I don't have a product key. Now choose the edition of Windows you want to install. For this tutorial, I'll just install Windows 10 Home. Then click Next. Accept the license agreement, then click Next again. Next, choose Custom Windows Install Only. Now we're at the important part. Here we want to choose the partition we want to install Windows on, which in this case is the partition we created earlier in Disk Management. So in this case, I want to install Windows 10 on the partition that I labeled Windows 10 and has 100 GB of disk space. Make sure you choose the partition correctly because you don't want to accidentally overwrite your current Windows install. Once you've selected the correct partition, click Next. Windows will now begin to install. The install will take a bit of time. Your PC may restart several times during the installation. During the restart, you'll be prompted with a boot menu asking you to choose an operating system. Make sure to always choose the version of Windows that you are installing. So in my case, Windows 10. Once Windows has finished installing, you'll be brought to the Windows setup. At this point, you just need to follow the setup and it's pretty straightforward. First choose a country, then a keyboard layout. It will then ask you to connect to Wi-Fi, however I'm connected to Ethernet, so it skips this step for me. Once again, your PC may restart during the setup, so remember to choose the version of Windows you're trying to set up when asked. When the Windows setup resumes, you'll need to sign into a Microsoft account, create a PIN if you'd like, then decline and skip all the bull Microsoft tries to track you with. After that, Windows will take a few minutes to get your desktop ready, and after that you should be in Windows 10. It's a good idea to install drivers such as video card and Bluetooth drivers as soon as you install a new copy of Windows. After installing drivers, software, and configuring your new Windows install, we can now configure our dual boot. In both Windows 10 and Windows 11, go to the search bar and type msconfig, and open System Configuration. Click on the Boot tab, and you'll see a list of the two Windows operating systems that you have installed, so Windows 10 and Windows 11. Click on the one you want to set as your default Windows operating system and click the Set as Default button. Your default OS will be the version of Windows that is automatically booted if none is selected at the boot menu. Next, you can change the timeout. This is how long the boot menu will appear at boot, and when the timer runs out, your PC will boot into the default operating system. After that, click on Apply and OK to exit out of msconfig. Now restart Windows and see if you can switch back to your other version of Windows. So in my case, I'll try and boot back to Windows 11. And there we have it, I can switch back to Windows 11 with no problem. We can try restarting our PC once again and see if we can go back to Windows 10. And there we go, now we're back in Windows 10. So just before I end the video, I have a quick bonus tip if you're unable to see the Windows boot menu when you restart your PC. You may need to turn Fast Startup off. You'll need to do this on both versions of Windows, so both Windows 10 and Windows 11, but start off with the version of Windows that boots by default. Turning off Fast Startup is the same process on both Windows 10 and Windows 11. Start off by going into Control Panel, then click System and Security, then Power Options. On the left side of the screen, click Choose what the power buttons do, then uncheck Turn on Fast Startup. If it's grayed out, just click on Change Settings that are currently unavailable at the top of the screen. Then you should be able to uncheck the box to turn Fast Startup off. After that, click Save Changes at the bottom of the screen. Now restart your computer and see if the Windows boot menu comes up. I would only turn Fast Startup off if you're unable to see the boot menu, otherwise I would just leave it on. And that brings us to the end of the tutorial. If this video helped, please leave a like. If it didn't, leave a dislike. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down in the comment section below, and I'll try my best to help you guys out. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys in my next video.